Parshiyos Acharei Kedoshim. This week's Parsha has many, many mitzvos. Some of them are obligations, affirmative obligations. Some of them are prohibitions. One of them is about Yom Kippur. And in celebrating Yom Kippur, we are obligated to desist from 5 specific types of activity, in addition to the activity that we are required to desist from, that is similar to that which is prohibited on Shabbos. What are those? These are the Chamisha Inuyim, the 5, let's call them for now, deprivations, which is not allowed to eat, not allowed to drink, not allowed to wear leather shoes, not allowed to smear balm or lotion, and not allowed to have marital relations. The verses actually use the word of either te'anu es nafshosechem or v'inisem es nafshosechem. This is in the first phrase that we cited. Te'anu es nafshosechem shows up in pasuk chaf tes, and the phrase of v'inisem, which is a different form of te'anu, you will oppress es nafshosechem, your lives, your souls, yourselves. That shows up in pasuk lamed aleph. What exactly does this phrase of ta'anu es nafshosechem? The 5 specific manifestations of this obligation are not detailed in the Torah. It's, the rabbis derive them from the verses, but the phrase of inui and nefesh does show up. Now we know that inui is not a good thing, but what exactly does it mean? Or at least it's some type of oppression or deprivation. So we say this in the Hagar, it comes from Parshiyos Kisavo. It says, Vayireo Sana Mitzrim, Vayanunu, Vayiknu Alinu Avodah Kasha. The Egyptians were treated us badly, Vayanunu, and now we're going to fill in the blank, we're going to leave it blank and fill it in later. They did inui against us, and Vayiknu Alinu Avodah Kasha, and they gave us hard work. Now what does Vayanunu mean? If you look at it straight up, it's difficult to just plug in an answer. The Torah already says, the Egyptians were treated us badly. They were bad to us. And it says they gave us hard work. So what does Vaya Anunu mean? And they oppressed us. Well, let's go back to Bereshis, where this phrase shows up. And this is talking about Sarah and Hagar. Sarah can't have children, and she arranges with Avraham. Actually, Avram. This is before Sarah and Avraham's names were changed, so it's Sarai and Avram. And Sarai takes Hagar, the Egyptian shivcha, maidservant, and after 10 years of being childless, and asks Avram to have a child with Hagar so that Sarah can raise this child as her own. Okay. Now, what's the relationship between Sarah and Hagar? Well, evidently it probably started okay, otherwise Sarah would not have suggested that Hagar act as surrogate, but it goes south, it becomes sour. This is in Perek Tes Zayin, Pasuk Daled, that's 16:4. It says that once Hagar became pregnant, then Vatekal Gevir Tabeina, that her boss became light in her eyes. It's not a good development as far as Sarah is concerned. Sarah says she gets angry with Avram, and she says, may God rule between us. And Avram says, here, you're the boss over here. You do what you want. It says, Vata'aneha Sarai, Vativrach mipaneha. That Sarai, Vata'aneha, what's Vata'aneha? Oppressed Hagar, and she, meaning Hagar, fled. And the Torah goes on to say that a malach, an angel of Hashem, found Hagar and says, where'd you go? Where are you coming from? Where'd you come from and where are you going? And Hagar says, I'm fleeing my mistress. And the angel of God responds, go back. This is Pasuk Tes, Vayomer la malach Hashem. And the angel of God says to her, meaning Hagar, Shuvi el Guriteich, go back to your boss, V'hisani tachas yodeha. So again, we have this inui, and be oppressed by her. I'd like to suggest that it doesn't mean oppressed. That inui means being controlled against one's will. So we see this actually, Rashi says, Vata'aneha Sarai, that Sarai Let's now use the translation that I'm suggesting, controlled Hagar against Hagar's will. It says, Hoisa mishabedes babakoshi. She subjugated her harshly. In other words, what makes it harsh? What makes a subjugation harsh is when a person constantly must do something that they don't want to do, and the relationship of a master to a servant or a slave, as the Egyptians via anunu, they enslaved us. Well, it doesn't say vavidu in this case via anunu. Seems to imply, and this is our working definition right now, that they imposed their will on us. They controlled us. They controlled our lives. They told us what to do. So let's look at it in the context of the Egyptian slavery. It says Vayireo son of mitzvah. They were bad. They treated us badly. Vaya anunu, and they controlled us. They subjugated us against our will. We didn't want to be slaves, but they enslaved us. Vayiknu aleinu avodah kasha, and they gave us hard work. So let's use that as a working definition for now. It means imposing one's will on another person in a manner that controls them. Okay. How about nefesh? It says ta'anu es nafshosechem, or v'inisem es nafshosechem. So we have two words. We have inui. So we're suggesting now the working definition is that that it means imposing control against the will of the person who's being controlled. And the word nefesh actually can take many meanings. We know that in Bereshis, it says Yishutzu Hamayim Nefesh Chaya, that the water will teem with living life. So nefesh seems to be some kind of animation. It's referred to many times. It also sometimes refers to just people, like B'Shiv Nefesh, with 70 people or lives. Sometimes it's translated in an appropriate context as soul, but it also has a different meaning, which is your desire. It says, this is concerning Avraham. Now, Avraham, when he wants to bury his wife Sarah, it says he's in negotiation with Bnei Ches, and he says, this is now in 23:8. That's Chav Gimel Ches. The Torah says, Vayidaber itam limor, and Avraham spoke with the Bnei Ches, saying, Im yesh es nafshechem, if you want, if you are willing or want to bury my dead before me, so listen to me and intercede on my behalf with Ephron. Rashi translates nafshechem as ritzonchem, your desire. Nefesh frequently means ratzon, means desire. In Gemara language, we use the phrase ma nafshach, when something can go either way and each way presents a difficulty. We say ma nafshach. Now it's frequently translated as either way you look at it, but literally it means, what do you want? Ma nafshach, ma ritzoncha. Which way do you want it to be? So nefesh can mean ratzon, can mean desire, and inui can mean imposing one's will against the will of the person who's upon whom your will is being desired, is being imposed. Te'anu es nafshosechem, on the 10th day of the month, impose control against your own desire. In other words, control yourself. Kuzari talks about a person who is Moshel Barucho, who rules over his spirit. Or we say Ezehu Gibor, Hakovesh Es Yitzro, who is the truly powerful person, the one who conquers his desire. According to this explanation, what the Torah is saying is, on the Day of Atonement for our sins, where we did not control ourselves, that is, when we sin, we do not control ourselves in an appropriate way. Tanu es nafshosechem, impose your control over your desire. Te'anu, impose your control against the will of who? Yourself. Nafshosechem, your ratzon. Why would that be? Impose your will against your own desires. Well, you want to eat, you want to drink. All of the chamish inuim, all of the 5 things are things that people would be inclined to do, not always, but frequently, on a given day. And the Torah is saying, use this day to demonstrate to yourself that you actually can control yourself. Use this day to demonstrate to yourself that you are capable of regulating your desires, of governing your appetites, so that you conform to the will of the Almighty. Why on this day? Because on this day, you will get atonement. How do we get atonement? We tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we say to the Almighty, we confront ourselves before God, and we say that we sinned, we admit it, that's confession. We abandon our sin, and we resolve not to do it again in the future. And what Yom Kippur does is it teaches ourselves that we can control ourselves on some of the most basic of desires. Desire to eat, the desire to drink. We can't control ourselves. We can do it for 24 hours. It's highly unusual. I remember when I was in elementary school, it was not Yom Kippur, but it was a fast day, and we told our coach, who was not clued into fasting, that we were fasting. He said, okay, now when you're done, take a drink. He didn't understand that fasting means no eating and no drinking. So there's a control of an activity, which is the need to engage in, is pressing all the time, and we do it. Anybody who observes Yom Kippur does it. We're teaching ourselves the lesson, Ta'anuz nafsho sechem. Control your desire, control your temptation, and demonstrate to yourself that you can do it not just in not eating and not drinking, but in everything else that HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you, because ultimately we are the bosses of our own selves, of our own desires. Have a good Shabbos.